You're listening to an Anderson Entertainment production.
This episode,
we face a frustrating financial false start in FAB Facts.
Will we be in time to save Johnny in the Randomiser?
and I started to our finish, it's Samira Ahmed
Oh, that's all coming up in Pod 159
of the Gerry Anderson Podcast.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's get started. Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
The Gerry Anderson Podcast with Jamie Anderson and Richard James.
Oh, what?
What?
Is something fallen over?
I'm just so excited. That's all. I'm excited, Jamie, because we've been talking about things, haven't we? And just full of exciting things.
Yes. In the pre-record section, talking about future things and past things becoming future things. Anyway, look, this is the Gerry Anderson Podcast, where we mostly talk about all things Gerry Anderson and Anderson in general. I'm here with Richard James, who's that other person who's talking.
That's right, and I'm here with Jamie Anderson, who was the first person who was talking.
Brilliant. And the person who's not talking over there, currently wearing an enormous stack of hats. I've got no idea why.
How tall is that?
Must be 10 foot tall. But the 10 foot tall man is Chris Dale, master and chairman of the Randomiser, and he'll be here later on with some random Gerry Anderson episode, and he'll be talking about, the stuff that happens in it.
Yes, in the Randomiser.
Yeah, that's exactly it. What else do we have between now and when that happens?
Well, we've been hearing from our podstrons, of course, so I shall be dipping into the postbag because they've been emailing us at the podcast at gerryanderson.co.uk. They've been posting on our Facebook group and tweeting us #Gerry Anderson Podcast. We've got some news from the Gerry Anderson universe because there's always something happening. And we've got Fab Facts coming up in just a moment. And I believe the first part of another interview with Samira Ahmed.
Yes, she's back again. You can't keep her away.
No.
We've had Samira on before with Kevin Fong. That was September 2019, I think she was last in. But now she's back talking UFO because she's been doing a series-wide review of all of the UFO episodes. She's absolutely loved it, and she's got some really fascinating insights. And actually, sort of in a slightly pop psychology way, she helps me to kind of find some interesting angles on Dad's thinking and psyche at the time, and I've discovered some new things that I didn't realise before. So it was a really fun chat. So thanks, Samira, for coming back. I look forward to hearing that later on.
Has she ordered her string vest? Purple wig.
We don't yet have a string vest in the Gerry Anderson store, but that's a great idea.
Isn't it, though?
Speaking of which, we'll have a little update on Space 1999 cosplays coming up in the news. But before we get there...
Yes?
Let's have a Fab Fact.
Oh, let's.
Now, time for this week's Fab Facts.
It is indeed Fab Fact. I almost forget how lucky we are that every week we have that introduced by Mark Silk.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, who I, in fact, managed to have a little orange juice with a couple of days ago.
Did you?
When visiting a secret location for a secret thing, which I've just told you about. That secret thing. Anyway.
Nice.
So, anyway, this is Fab Facts, where I have a book of Fab Facts.
Yeah.
That was me slapping the book of Fab Facts. And I'm going to flick through that book. At a random point, Richard James is going to say Fab. Say, not shout. And when he says that, I'll stop flicking. The page I land upon will hopefully contain a Fab Fact. And from that Fab Fact, I will impart that information to you. And hopefully, Podstron, you will enjoy it. How does that sound?
Yes, great. Yes.
Good. Richard, are you ready for some flicking?
Born ready.
Because I'm ready for your Fab. Here we go.
Fab.
Oh.
Just slid that in, didn't I?
The smooth Fab sounds of Richard James. Great. Well, Richard.
Yes?
You're not going to believe this.
I bet I will.
But we've we've landed in 1978/9.
Okay.
Which is very interesting because it relates to a project that you've been working on recently.
Oh? What, painting my bathroom?
Nothing to do with home decoration. Instead, this is to do with Gerry Anderson's 5 Star 5.
Ah. How exciting.
But unfortunately, it is a tale of woe.
Oh.
So, Richard James, since you've been working on this project, or a modern reinterpretation of it, could you tell us a little about what you know about Gerry Anderson's 5 Star 5?
Oh, what do I know about it? It was born out of Gerry's experiences working on Space 1999, I think. They were developing the script throughout the second season of that. It was Gerry's answer to Star Wars, really. It's about a sort of grumpy, grizzled freighter captain and his simian sidekick fighting the forces of evil, and it went into production. I think they had stages at Bray, they had a script, and then it all fell through.
Yes, it did indeed, sadly, and was never picked up again.
No.
Until now, when you've done a fantastic novelisation, and we've got the audiobook coming out, and they're both out in July. Audiobook is sounding amazing, and
Isn't
we'll
it?
mention that again in the news. But the tale of woe I have for you in today's Fab Fact surrounds why the picture fell aside and never happened. So, yes, film finance and film production, in fact all production, is a very complicated matter that requires multiple parties to coordinate, lots of contracts to be signed, huge amounts of paperwork, and there are so many points at which things can fall over, which is always rather sad. So Dad had been introduced to a party by an agent of his who said they would be able to finance this feature. It was quite expensive. I think it was around £11 million, which back in 1978, I mean, that would be the equivalent of like 100 million picture now, probably. I would guess maybe more.
Yeah.
So they were assured that everything was underway. They signed a contract for the finance. But unfortunately, they would later discover that it was signed by someone who was not domiciled in the UK and therefore was not necessarily bound by UK law. So it turns out their signature really wasn't worth the paper it was written on, or the ink it was written with, even. I'm not sure which of those is cheaper, but whichever is, that's the one that I'm referring to. They were pretty concerned about what was going on, and so Dad forced the hand of the alleged financier to get them some paperwork. So he was told that one of the financier's associates was visiting a bank in a foreign nation. I don't know where this was because it seems to be lost in the mist of time. But somewhere outside the UK, the financier's associate headed to the bank to have a meeting to sort of finalise the finance. Now, alongside this, they were assured that the first £1 million British pounds would be arriving in the bank shortly.
Right.
The meeting took place, and they received a telex from the bank saying, confirming funds have been sent, will be with your bank in 48 hours.
Oh, great.
So they thought, great, off we go.
News.
That's the confirmation. Now, they were slightly suspicious, so they did telex back to the bank and said, can you confirm your bank name and address? Which then the bank replied and said, yes, we are XYZ Bank, and here's the address. So all confirmed, all sounds good, and so they proceeded. And that included getting various people in on pre-production, people starting work, people starting to build models, design work, all that sort of stuff. 48 hours came and went, no money. And the money never appeared. The financiers disappeared and the project collapsed, and it was all very sad, and Dad had a horrendous time having to basically tell the crew, look, we were told, we've got contract, we've got this telex, but it's fallen through, and it left some people upset and disgruntled, understandably. Some people much more sympathetic, and Dad does tell a story of one of the members of the crew who turned up with a case of wine and said, Gerry, this must be awful for you, let's have a drink, or 5.
Okay.
But they later discovered that what had happened was that the financier's associate had gone to the bank, been rejected for the finance, had then gone to the telex operator and said, can you send this message for me? She said, oh, actually, I'm about to go on my lunch. And the financier's associate thought, oh, here's my chance. He said, oh, well, don't worry, I can use a telex. Do you mind if I send the message direct? And he falsely sent a message via the telex saying that the funds had been agreed.
Wow.
Even though that was not the case. Now, we don't know who that very naughty gentleman was, and we probably never will know. But these are the kinds of terrible things that go on behind the scenes on projects like this. And so that's why 5 Star 5 never happened. And now, aren't we lucky that all these years later, that, is it 43 years later?
We've booked the stages at Bray.
Well,
we've got a script.
You say book, we've made a book. So yeah, Richard has turned that original film script into a novelisation. We've got a great audiobook read by Robbie Stevens with the music and sound effects by Benji Clifford. They're out in July. And we'll have more samples of those for you soon. But yeah, I'm really glad that it finally gets to see the light of day. But isn't it terrible, the things that go on?
Well, it's so cruel, isn't it? Because, of course, the crew would have set aside, 12 weeks of their time. They would have turned down other projects thinking they had this to work on.
Yeah.
And then have the rug pulled from under their feet and have no work for 3 months.
Yeah, exactly. So just horrible all round. So yes, and we've already experienced similar things along the way so far in our journey of development. So it does happen. It still happens all the time. Yeah, and it's just a disappointing part of the industry. But there we go.
I had a very small part in a film a while ago, and one of the actors told me it had taken them 12 years to get the film up and running.
Yeah.
Because things had fallen apart, people had backed away, projects had failed. 12 years.
Well, isn't that a bit like The Queen's Gambit? That Netflix chess drama thing.
Oh, yes.
I'm sure, I may have got the initial date wrong, but they'd been trying to get that away since the early 90s or maybe even the late 80s. I mean, it's just, these things take so blooming long because there's so many moving parts. But
That's right.
There we are. Anyway, the sad story of 5 Star 5. But look, if it had happened, then you, Richard James, would not have had a chance to write the novelisation. So
that's true. What would I have done with all my time?
Exactly. Every cloud has a silver lining. Right, that's it. That's the end of this week's
Finance 5-Star Fact.
Oh, interesting.
Finance fact?
Yeah, it was a finance fact.
But that sounds really dull.
Well, then it ended up...
fact.
We should have said 5-star finance or something, shouldn't we? Anyway, look, we've got there.
There we are.
That was the end of that one.
We did. That's true. Now, you're listening to the Gerry Anderson Podcast. Please, please, please subscribe to us on whichever platform you're listening to us on. Leave us a lovely review and a rating because that really does help with the algorithms and so on.
It does.
And our listings. Yeah, it does. And also, of course, copy the link and why not share it with all your friends across all your social medias so they get to listen to us too. Now, we have had a fair few emails sent into podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk. For example, Big Al says, congratulations on 3 years of podcastery.
Oh, thanks, Big Al.
He says, I've been with you since the very beginning. Sorry about that. And just finished a binge listen catch up on the past couple of podcasts. There's one very important question that must be answered. When are we going to hear more about Thunderbird 7, aka Jamie's new tractor?
I can give you a Thunderbird 7 update right now.
Oh, great.
Which is that, unfortunately, I have a power steering fluid leak.
Oh, wow, okay.
So yesterday I filled the power steering vessel with a special blend of oils which are supposed to help seal leaks in the system. Right. And I drove it for a few minutes and all was well, but unfortunately the leak has not been sealed, and so the future of Thunderbird 7 remains in peril.
Well, there you go, Big Al, you did ask. He also says, P.S. I'm halfway through a 60th anniversary rewatch of Supercar on DVD. Great news about the Blu-ray upgrade. Most exciting. Hannah says, hello, I just want to say that I'm making a new Anderson drawing. It's taking a little longer than I thought, but for a bit of fun, here's a clue of what the image will be. 2 international rescue vehicles. One is red, the other is yellow. I'll give you another clue when it's nearly done.
Ooh, okay.
Tantalising, yeah. Miles got in touch to say, hi, Jamie and Richard.
Hello.
Hello. He says, thanks for reading out my email in Pod 157. My mum was touched when I played it for her. Would you consider doing prints or postcards of the famous Portrait of a Gazelle by Picasso from the Duchess assignment? Cheers, Miles.
Yeah, Miles, that is pretty niche, even though it is from the world of Thunderbird. So I would say it's possible, but not super likely. But, never say never.
Yeah, true. James Pilson Wood says, hi, Chris, Richard, and Jamie. Changing up the order, he says.
That's right.
Hoping you're all well and staying safe. I'm super excited for the release of the Supercar Blu-ray set. It's going to go really well with my new Treasury DVD set. They both look amazing. He says, I also saw the news with cover art of the Stingray audio drama, and I can't wait to see the voice cast for it. Speaking of talented voice casts, says James, I want to share my thanks and gratitude to not only the fantastic Podstrons for taking part in this year's table reads, but also Ben Page and Chris Thompson for taking the time out of their day, which you most likely get paid for, lol, to record some cameo voices for me. Similar to what you guys did last year, everyone has done such an amazing job. Keep up the great work with the podcast and the fantastic new entries to the Anderson store. As always, I'm excited to see what you do next. All the best from James.
Oh.
Yeah, very good. If you're
James.
a member of the Podstrons group on Facebook, you can watch those table reads. They're really good fun. Couple more. Dom Riley. Hello, Jamie, Richard, and the Randomiser General. Further to your request for pets for Anderson shows, here is mine. This is a pet for Gordon Tracy. It's a pet dolphin that swims around the island, and Gordon makes friends while diving. Dolphins are known to befriend humans, and there have been incidences where dolphins have saved humans from shark attacks and from drowning. The dolphin's use of echolocation could be screened on Thunderbird 4 to locate trapped people under the sea. Love the podcast. Take care in these unusual times. Best wishes, Dom Riley. That's a nice idea, isn't it?
It is, Dom. There you go. There's a whole new adventure there. We better email
yes.
Jo Marie Verber immediately.
Yeah, exactly. Well, has there ever been a dolphin in a Gerry Anderson programme before?
I can't definitively say, to be honest.
No, there you go.
It must be, surely.
Yeah.
But Chris Dale will know. We'll find out. Chris Dale, let us know, please. Thank you.
Yeah. And Pen Quiller finally says, Dear Jamie,
Oh.
you asked, fair enough. He says, you asked what the audio equivalent would be for Richard's Hawaiian shirt. My answer, loud socks. Love the interview with Martin Roberts. Please keep them coming, Pen Quiller. Well, that's lucky because we are keeping them coming, aren't we?
Yes,
So,
you can't stop
your wish is our
us.
command. No, exactly.
But thank you
there
for
we are,
loud
but,
socks.
Yes, all for now. Do send us your comments, your reviews of your latest merch. Send us your pictures and thoughts and ideas to podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk, and I'll read them out next time.
Great.
Yes.
Looking forward to them already.
Really good.
Richard, would you like a small newsy interjection?
Why, have you got one handy?
Yeah, it's coming up fast. In fact, here it is now. It's the Gerry Anderson
Wow.
News.
Duck, everyone!
It is the Gerry Anderson...
Newsy, news.
Oh, could you have gone any lower there?
Did you like that?
Yeah, that was lovely.
It's the 20 fags of the bottle of scotch I had last night.
No need to let us in on that part of your life, Richard. Thank you, though. Yes, it's the Gerry Anderson News. And, well, we've mentioned a few of these things already, so let's start with Stingray, Operation Ice Cap, which is now available for pre-order as CD and hardback book.
Great.
The pre-order for the download edition will be on Big Finish's website very soon, if not already, but probably very soon. And I can't yet reveal much about this.
Really?
New voice cast? No, I'm not going to tell you yet. We're going to wait until we've got some trailer stuff to share with you. Okay. But it is very exciting. It's sounding fantastic. They had a great time recording it.
Yeah.
And it's a really fun story. And great to have some new Stingray fiction. I mean, this is the first new Stingray audio stuff out there since the mini albums of the 60s, I guess.
Right, yeah.
Which is amazing.
That's pretty good, yeah.
Yeah, so it is pretty cool to bring it to life. A lovely cover by Marcus Stamp. It's beautiful kind of continuation of the same sort of packaging style that you'll see across all the books. And it is gorgeous.
Nice.
Now, just a quick warning. We are still kind of dealing with all of the manufacturing issues that are going around the world. We are really close to fixing it all up and aligning things. However, if you are going to pick up the book and the CD, we're aiming to have them available on the same day, but that is going to be very much subject to supply chain and manufacturing, stuff like that. So if you want to be guaranteed that you don't have to wait for either item, you might want to order them separately. If you order them together, you may end up having to wait, and it's happened with Thunderbird's Terror from the Stars, which is really frustrating. So if you ordered the book and the CD, your CD is sat in the warehouse, held for you, but awaiting the book to go out with it. If you really can't wait, email support@gerryanderson.co.uk and Louise and Tim will help you out. So on that note with pre-orders, the Space 1999 cosplays, which have been delayed and then delayed and then delayed, and then there was a problem and then they were delayed, and then you think there was another bit of a delay, and we've had such a rough time with these. It's been really hard, and poor Louise and Tim on the customer support time have been doing their very best to field questions, but they just haven't had the answers because we haven't had the answers. However, manufacturing is complete. They are on the way. They're on the van, on the way to the UK. We estimate that if you are in the UK and ordered either of the Space 1999 cosplays, they will be with you on or around the 7th of July. So it's really soon.
Okay.
If you're outside the UK, obviously they're going to take a little bit longer, but we'll send them on the best service we possibly can, and they will be with you very soon.
Yeah, I have to say, this isn't just a problem for the Gerry Anderson store, is it? This is a problem across the world for lots of different companies. I've been listening to a lot of items about it on the radio, and a lot of people are struggling with supply at the moment.
It's really tough. There's all sorts of reasons, and if you pop into the supermarket or any other shops or whatever, you might think, well, I don't see the problem anywhere else. But it's a global issue. There are products that you probably should have seen from other suppliers through the Gerry Anderson store by now, which are now delayed until the end of the year, if not longer. So actually, we've got off quite lightly with some of our stuff. But there we go. The Terror of the Stars CD, Thunderburst Terror from the Stars, is on its way. If you pre-ordered it, it's on its way to you now. They're in stock.
Yes.
It's a beautiful box set. 4 CDs of Thunderbirdsy glory. So if you haven't ordered yours yet, then... well, why not? What are you thinking?
Yeah. Oh, and when it arrives, post a picture and pop it up on Facebook or Twitter, and we can see it in your grubby little hands.
Yes, and then I'm really looking forward to people's collections building out of these, and it all looking beautiful on the shelf. Oh, it's going to be great.
Oh, don't.
Speaking of which, if you're looking forward to 5 Star 5, then there is a brand new sample section available on the Gerry Anderson YouTube channel, youtube.com/Gerry Anderson TV, so go and have a listen there. And I think in a couple of weeks' time, we might even give away a free chapter. Richard, what do you reckon?
Oh, what a great idea. Yeah,
I think
lovely. Sounding
great. A full chapter to whet your appetite with all the lovely music and sound effects and all that glorious stuff.
Yeah, and the writing.
And the amazing writing, without which it would be non-existent, actually, to be fair. Yeah.
True enough. Well, you would have got someone else to do it, but
No, there's nobody else who possibly could have done it, Richard. No, it's absolutely had to be you. Right, anyway, look, it's very audio-based, this week's Gerry Anderson News, and I'm sure there's some other stuff, but for now, that'll do for this week's Gerry Anderson News.
That was the news, mainly audio news.
Oh, it's so nice to have you back.
Oh, well, yes, I've been holding my talent aside for just a little while, but there we are. I thought I'd give it full throat today.
I felt every rumble. Thank you.
Now, over on our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/podsterons, Tom Hodden posted, coming soon, name some aftershaves and perfumes that might be sold in the Anderson store. And he suggested Alpha Male by Koenig.
Nice.
Paul G suggested Infinity, smell like the day after tomorrow. Which I quite like.
Yeah.
Martin Smith came up with Eau de Parfum de Oink, the seal of approval.
Oh, these are quite good.
Aren't they?
Posterons have an upgrade. These are brilliant.
I know. Simon Allen came up with Alone by John Tracy. Oh, isn't that sweet? And finally, one of my favourites, Dean Harrison, Old Space, available from 1999. Clever. I like that.
Give those lots some medals. That's some great work by the Posterons. Very good.
Yeah, and everyone, of course, after an email a couple of weeks ago, has been sharing pictures of their Andershelves, which is now a thing. Yes. Among them, we had Adam Reed, John Wood, Rob Doyle, Ian Clark, and Sean Bailey. And Dave Lawson, who we know well, commented, very neat. I used to get in trouble for filling my ex-wife's bookcase up with my DVDs. I bought my own, and she said it was too big. I bought a new TV, and she said it was too big. I now live alone with my new big TV and collection. There you go. I'm sure Dave won't mind me reading that out.
Good work, Dave.
And we recently celebrated Father's Day here in the UK, and Penquiller, who we've heard from already today, said Jeff Tracy was the best dad to grow up with. Instead of saying, don't do that, you could hurt yourself, he told his boys, and by extension all the kids watching who identified with the Tracys, to go and do really risky things every week in incredibly cool machines. Fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, is it good or bad dadding?
That's true.
You decide.
That's it. Do join in on our Facebook group. There's a couple of questions and we'll let you in, and you can post your own fan art. You can post your merch when it arrives, your cosplay, your reviews and comments. We'll see them all there.
Please do that.
Yeah, please.
I wonder what percentage of our listeners are not in the Podstrongs group. Well, we could probably actually work it out, but...
probably could, yes.
Yeah, if you haven't gone there, why not? What's stopping you? You could send us a private email to podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk if you want.
Okay.
Why haven't you joined the Podstrong Facebook
Well,
group yet?
not everyone's on Facebook, are they, for a start?
No, well, I'm not, so that's a good start, I suppose.
That's right. Yeah.
Anyway, please do continue sending your emails and things in.
Yes, please.
While we wait for those to arrive over the next week, shall we have an interview?
Well, now, Jamie, are you not a bit worried about, scraping the bottom of the barrel this week?
What are you saying?
Well, I'd just say we've had Samira Ahmed on before. We just had Martin Roberts, who's another Celebrity Mastermind winner. We've had that Nick Briggs character on twice.
Yeah.
And you and I have appeared on the podcast, obviously, about 159 times?
Well, that is true, yes, yeah.
Well, it's just, just a repeat business. It's just a bit odd, isn't it?
We are
scraping.
The Duke and Duchess of scraping the barrel. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly.
Well, no, that sound you hear is not the sound of the bottom of the barrel being scraped. It is, in fact, the sound of a brand new barrel being cracked open. Does that make it sound any better?
Yeah, all right. Yeah, just about.
So, look, we know that Samira Ahmed is a Space 1999 superfan because, she's been on before discussing it, and she was also on Celebrity Mastermind wearing a Space 1999 uniform.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't get many Celebrity Masterminds going on in cosplay of their specialist subject, but that's pretty awesome.
That's true.
Her knowledge is amazing. And for Space 1999, if you remember that interview, I basically said, well, this is Samira Ahmed and Kevin Fong, and then I didn't say another word for 3 parts.
No. That's right.
Which was kind of brilliant because I just had to sit there and marvel at their incredible knowledge. For this one, we had a little bit more of a chat because... we didn't really get to talk about anything beyond Space 1999 last time. So this time we're crossing into the world of UFO, which Samira has had a great time reviewing over the last few months. It's such a fun chat. She's so bright. Those guests that you have on when you feel like you're wearing a dunce cap when you talk to them because they're just so clever.
Every week for me, yeah.
Well, it's becoming increasingly frequent for me as well. But Samira is brilliant. So here is part 1 of Samira Ahmed on UFO.
Hello, I'm Samira Ahmed. I'm a journalist and broadcaster, and I won the Celebrity Mastermind Champion of Champions edition with my specialist subject, Space 1999, while wearing a Season 1 top.
There's nobody else who could give an introduction quite like that. We had Martin Roberts on a couple of weeks ago, and he won his round doing Thunderbirds, but it wasn't a Champion of Champions round. So you are still at the pinnacle of all Anderson knowledge, Samira.
Oh, I don't know about that, but it was a complete joy. And as you know, thanks to you, I got help finding a fan to lend me the costume. But I just figured if I'm going to lose like I didn't. I just was having a great time, And also in Space 1999, people died every episode, so it would feel appropriate. It was a rare happy ending.
You were not the red shirt equivalent there. You were
purple sleeve. I wasn't a purple sleeve
equivalent. No, you did it extremely well. So now I'm hoping after this we're going to see you on a future Champion of Champions doing a UFO round.
Well, I have to say, if I got asked a specialist subject for anything again, I think that I would pick UFO.
Amazing. Well, I know you've been researching it and rewatching it and revisiting. First of all, how has the process of revisiting UFO been? When did you actually last watch and enjoy those episodes before this review?
It's really weird for someone who thinks myself quite a serious, Gerry Anderson fan. I had never really watched UFO properly. And when I was a child, I was born in 1968, the episodes were transmitted brand new when I was, 3 years old. And I remember the title sequence. And of course, it's a fantastic long title sequence, like a lot of Gerry Anderson shows. So, it's really ingrained in my mind. And I didn't understand it, yet I had formed all these ideas about what this series was. My brother still adores it, who's 5 years old, and he dug out his collection of toys, which he's kept. And I knew when I was doing Space 1999 as a specialist subject, lots of fans got in touch and said, you have to watch UFO. It's, Space 1999 is essentially what would have been series 2. And I promised I would. And then, the pandemic came and I was preoccupied with other things and I never got around to it. But I got sent separately 3 different box sets, one on DVD, and all 3 DVD box sets. And it's really interesting because one of the things straight away is some of them have a 12 certificate and one of them has a PG certificate. So that whole issue about how to rate it, was it a children's show or an adult show, is implicit straight away, even to this day. But I actually sat down and watched them over the last couple of months. And in fact, there's an edition of Woman's Weekly, which I got asked to write a column for, which came out in March. And you have to answer a few questions like, what have you watched? And I said, I have watched the entire box set of UFO. People might be thinking, why? And it was for this moment. So I watched 1 episode a day, about 4 days a week. And I'm glad because it's really value for money. Each episode is pretty much a full hour. There's a big idea in there. It's often quite, existential. And you can't just watch them back to back, I don't think. I think you need to go away and mull them over. And I would have some weird UFO-tinged dreams, where you'd be wandering around a sort of desolate film set. And I mean, there's so much that I'm fascinated by, the look of it, the character of Straker. And weirdly, considering, I'm 52 years old and I've only really sat down and watched UFO now, I met Ed Bishop at a screening of the only episode I watched properly, which was The Long Sleep, which is the final episode. And they had a double screening at the BFI in the early 90s of that episode with the opening episode of Star Maidens. And Ed Bishop, they invited him along to introduce. And he was so lovely. This was about 93 or 4, I guess, and talked about how they'd made him dye his hair for the first few episodes, but he didn't understand why, because obviously he could have worn a wig, which he then did. Yeah. And I'm just amazed, 1, by his character, and 2, by what a kind of warm, compelling presence he is, and what is essentially quite a cold is the wrong word, but like I've been reading a lot of existential literature at the same time, and I'm sure it's because of UFO. I read The Plague by Albert Camus. I only just read it in the last couple of weeks. And there's a whole existential sense of crisis, isn't there, about Ed Straker?
There is, and we're definitely going to get onto Straker and the sort of the inspiration for his character, because he is Ed. In all interviews, he's so warm and friendly, and he's got that lovely kind of diaphragmatic warmth of voice and tone, and yet Straker, I don't know, it's quite a performance from Ed.
And there's one film role which I would bring up now because it seems to sum up exactly what you've just said. In Diamonds Are Forever, he's that scientist working on that space program for the baddies, and James Bond kind of manages to work his way inside this thing, and Ed Straker's character's got some really weird, Ed Bishop's character's got some really weird name. Like it's very Germanic. And he's swiped his pass. It's something like, Hufflebecker or something.
I can picture him wearing his little green radiation tag.
Even though it's a tiny role, it's like he steals the film. He's so warm in it. And it's like he's trying to be helpful to this James Bond character. And it's the only Bond film where you really get an insight into, like, some of these guys who work for Blofeld might actually be quite nice people. And it's just a job, and they're just really good scientists, and they love their work. And then after, he finally gets into the room after Bond's been and gone, and he comes in and says, hello, I'm whatever, and I'm here to, and they're all looking at him because they realize that they've had an imposter. I just thought that's the kind of strange contradiction of Ed Bishop, that he is an incredibly warm presence. He could bring that to a Bond film, and yet in this leading role where he's obviously a loving man, and you essentially like him. I mean, I find him an incredibly likable screen presence, but so much of what he does, I've got so many issues about. Like, you could write a book about how not to be a manager based on Commander Straker.
Not impressed by his management style. Well, that again, it's another potential parallel with Dad. So, since you sort of brought it up, we've been working on some stuff recently, and listeners may have seen on BritBox an introduction to A Question of Priorities, the UFO episode. So we can talk about Straker, and then maybe that too. So, in an interview, Dad says about that, basically, it was on my mind a lot at the time how difficult it was to be a high-powered executive and a family man at the same point. And at that point, obviously, he was married to Sylvia, but all reports say that their marriage was already in trouble and beginning to break down then. He had a young son from that marriage, Gerry Jr., who was born in 1967, so very young. So clearly it was on his mind because he was doing it himself. Now, in the same interview, he basically says, well, no, I mean, it wasn't a reflection of my own life, of course. So, it was just on my mind. I thought it was an interesting theme. But I think that is one of the most deeply personal and stressful and distressing stories across UFO. A lot of people find that story really boring, which I'm surprised by because of the sort of emotional intensity to it. But what do you think that story says about Straker and possibly about Dad and his influence on the character and story?
Well, it's really touching. Whenever you tell me about your dad, I always find it incredibly moving. And I'm a year younger than Gerry Jr., because I was born in 1968. So I was just thinking of, the timing of he would have been, 3 years old or so. I mean, I personally, as a viewer of science fiction, I always felt I'd rather have more stuff going on in space and, with aliens and whatever.
Yeah.
But the emotional kind of trauma at the heart of it fascinated me because it rang true. And also, which is another issue I want to talk about properly a bit later, is the whole military world. And I know your dad had been in the RAF, hadn't he?
Yeah.
And obviously he'd lost his brother. And I just think one of the reasons, I was listening to Adam Hardwick's episode, and I talked to Adam about Space 1999 for a magazine feature, and he'd said UFO is the one. It's the favourite one for him. And it was the first one they put out on Forces TV. And it's because it grapples with the reality of, a force's life and its impact on family. We know there are huge issues with marriage breakdown, with domestic violence, with that kind of torment of doing the right thing. And also at the time, I mean, it's even now, it's only really beginning to be talked about, this sense that you don't talk about things. So there's no sense that Ed Straker would really discuss it with anyone. And like he didn't tell Alec, who was such a lovely friend of his, that, look, the reason that plane's on its way back early is because it's got medicine on it for my son. And I'm sure Alec would have said, we can do both. We can have an ambulance ready to meet the plane and rush the medicine to your son.
Yeah.
At the same time as it lands in the right place. There's all these things you could do if you talk it through. Obviously, it was a TV show, so it's also about a simplified plot. So sometimes you're just watching it thinking, this is what happens when you don't talk. I think that's the toughest thing. I think as a visual document, it's incredibly lush and it's full of the kind of late 60s excess of wigs and frilly tight trousers and shirts and everything, and blue eyeliner for the men. And yet they don't talk any more than the stiff upper lip generation of the 1940s.
That's true. Yeah. So everything stepped forward in technology, but not in emotional intelligence.
No, and there's all kinds of, it seems sexually a bit freer as well. So there's all the, then there's flirtation going on Moon Base in the rec room.
Oh, I know.
And you kind of think it's sort of sweet because it's trying to do something, a bit hip and groovy. And yet, ultimately, it's still a world seen through the prism of, Straker's carrying his briefcase into the office. Hello, everybody, as he walks through into his private, and then he shuts the door in his executive suite. And I tell you, there is a UFO drinking game, surely, which is every time he lights a cigar, or every time he offers someone a cigar, or every time someone pours a drink. Because actually,
we don't recommend you do that.
But it's every episode. But that's the world, and I recognise it because my dad, in his business, had a shop which sold executive toys, amongst other things. So there's big paperweights that look like solid lava lamps and those things that look like fans that would spring around with little baubles on the end of them. And I kind of feel that's the world of UFO. It's the world of the slightly jaded, confused, early middle-aged male executive. It can't quite make sense, this new world.
I mean, is that potentially, again, a reflection of Dad? I mean, that I feel like I'm being a bit cruel on him by, holding that mirror up when you just said the jaded middle-aged executive.
Sorry, I wasn't thinking of your dad when I said that. I was really thinking of Commander Straker. And
so I've got this my theory, Samira, and it sort of fits. It sort of doesn't. That every one of the puppet shows, we had a motherless group, essentially missing the maternal figure because he had such a rocky relationship with his mum as a child, I believe. A strong father figure, be that Jeff Tracy or Colonel White or whoever, and then a hero son like Scott Tracy, or a hero pilot who was Lionel. And for me, UFO is the point where Dad kind of graduates from painting a picture of characters that are his childish view of adults to painting a picture of adults which are also a reflection of him. So whereas Jeff Tracy would be a replacement for his father, I think Ed Straker is a much more a direct reflection of Dad. I mean, a studio head, a whiskey drinking, a cigar smoking, smart car driving guy who was having, problems with his marriage and struggling with Ed Straker is Dad in a wig, basically. That's my true feeling about it. And then when you start to examine Straker through that lens, it's quite distressing actually to think what Dad must have been going through. There's a lot of his psychology bleeding through onto the screen, I think.
Well, I was also wondering with the writers he chose. I mean, the whole setup of the moon, the sort of control center underneath a studio, which is still having to commission films. So he's still got to deal with, agents and actors and directors and scripts. And you just think, really? Could you not have delegated that to someone who would really do it for you? Are you really going to do them both? And I just think, as I say, I'm not saying that I'm thinking of your dad. It's up to you if you see comparisons. But Straker won't let anything go. He has to do it all himself. Yeah. And because Ed Bishop's such a compelling screen presence, you're quite glad in a way. Yeah. But it doesn't make, why are he and Colonel Foster going up to Moonbase to sort stuff out when they should be on, where are they in charge? They even go down underwater to the, the one where they find the underwater sort of
the dome thing. Yeah.
Although that's a terrific episode, but it's like Star Trek did the same. You can't keep putting your commander and your first in command, your second in command in peril, because who's going to take over if they both die? Yeah, true. So flawed management and flawed organisation. I wonder, actually, with Forces TV, where the kind of military people watch it and just think, oh God, they've got their whole chain of command wrong. Because that's where it falls apart. But actually, the whole military operations, it's like a giant World War II RAF room, isn't it, with the signalling, where they're always trying to get in touch with the base, and there's that guy on the desk. But the other weird thing I'll mention, just because I really wish I had spoken to her, and I don't know if you've tried to get hold of her, Ayesha, who was the main sort of female comms operator of Shadow. Yes, it's the first vision you see in the first episode, isn't it? And she's in the title sequence and everything. And of course, I have featured some audio from her, although I never interviewed her. Ayesha Brough, her name is, because she introduced David Bowie on Liftoff, which was the children's TV music show she used to present after UFO, 72, I think. And I think it's seen as a landmark moment in pop culture. It's the first time a lot of children saw him, and he was performing Starman, I think. Mm-hmm. And I just love the idea that she is sort of this amazingly important point in understanding David Bowie and Space Oddity, but also was in UFO. How cool is that? She connects the two. Well, she's lovely, and she's very fond of her connection. I think all of Liftoff has been lost, hasn't it? All the tapes were wiped. Yeah, only the bits of audio survive. Sad, isn't it? Yeah. Well, it's like Doctor Who. Thank goodness it's not the same with Anderson stuff, except for Twizzle. Oh, great! She's so smart. That's nice, isn't it? Let me just take off my dunce cap. Yeah, that's it. Just pop it over there. I'll put it on later. Yeah. Just put it straight onto your head if you like. Yeah, you might as well. Pass it back. Yeah. I mean, Samira just showing off all of her Anderson credentials there, but she's not just an Ander fan. She's a journalist, podcaster, writer, presenter, raconteur, general intellectual and smart person. You can find her website at samiraahmed.co.uk. Obviously, you should follow her on Twitter at Samira Ahmed UK. And if you've got nothing better to do, once you've listened to all 160 of the current episodes of the Gerry Anderson Podcast, and if you're listening to this after we've issued 160, then all the future ones too, then you might possibly want to, flip over and have a listen to her podcast, which is How I Found My Voice. Okay. Which is really fascinating conversations with, all sorts of people. Anyway, more Samira next week for part 2. Yeah. Now, that's interesting, isn't it? So I have a feeling that Samira's offering us something of a trilogy here. She's working her way through the Gerry Anderson live-action series, isn't she? Starting with Space 1999, UFO next. There's only one left. So when will you be talking to Samira Ahmed about Crossroads to Crime? Oh. Right, anyway, over on Twitter, people have been hashtagging us Gerry Anderson Podcast. They've been tagging me, Richard N. James, him, I'm Jamie Anderson, and him over there with the tall tower of hats, Chris Dalek. For example,
James Pilsonwood tweeted, I voted for the Gerry Anderson podcast in the Brit Pod Awards Listener's Choice Award.
Oh, thanks,
perfect
James.
Monday listening. Yeah, about a topic very close to my heart. Pure joy to listen to. Yes, I remember we had a minor push on this, didn't we, a couple of years ago?
Yeah, felt lot good that did.
Yeah, probably picked up a few votes. But anyway, nice that people are still voting for us. That's
Yeah,
great.
thank you.
I suppose if you want to do it yourself, you can just Google Brit Pod Awards and you'll find us there. Lost in Transition tweeted, as always, big thank you to the legendary Chris Dalek. I'm Jamie Anderson and Richard M. James for the Gerry Anderson podcast and for making my journey to and from work much more enjoyable. Keep up the great work. Lots of people, Jamie, listen to us on their way to work on a Monday morning. It's quite nice, isn't it?
Well, now things are getting a little bit more back to normal. I suppose people are commuting again.
Yes.
But okay, I've got a question for you, Podsteron. Please let us know when, where, and how you are listening to us, because listening habits have changed so much. Tell us the sort of the pre-COVID listening and the post-COVID. So, how did you used to listen to us on the train on the way to work, and now you're work from home, or perhaps you've changed role and you're driving now, or you're walking, or let us know how your listening habits have changed. Podcast at gerryanderson.co.uk. I'm genuinely interested to hear. I really am.
Yeah. Do you have to listen to us in little chunks now, whereas you used to listen to the whole thing straight
exactly,
through?
See?
Do you just skip us and just go straight to the randomizer? Just let us know.
Then they won't hear this question, and so that's redundant, isn't it? Yeah.
I hadn't really thought that through. Also, of course, the people that do listen to us on their way to work are the ones that get very upset when the podcast doesn't arrive quite on time on a Monday morning, which is fair enough.
That very rarely happens, though, I think
true.
You'll find.
That's very true. Mark Wilson tweeted, amazing interview. Thank you, Martin Roberts, for giving up your time to be part of our Podsteron universe. 1010.
Yeah, bless him.
And Martin Quibble, how about as an audio representation of Richard's Hawaiian shirt that he plays a ukulele in the show? I mean, it's a thought, isn't it?
How is your uking?
I don't think I've got a ukulele.
I've got one.
Have you?
Do you want me to pop mine in the post?
Please do, and then I shall surprise you.
By returning it.
Exactly, immediately.
I'm just looking around. I'm not actually sure where it's gone. Oh, well, right, I'll go on a ukulele hunt immediately when we finish recording this podcast.
Well, then maybe I can accompany myself with my that was the news, couldn't I?
Okay, right. There's the challenge for next week.
Oh. Uh-oh. Okay, all for now, but do head on over to Twitter and hashtag us Gerry Anderson Podcast, and I shall see your tweets there.
Perfect. Well, that is great timing, because over there, Chris has just taken off the final of what turned out to be 34 hats.
Yes, that took him a while.
And included a replica Lieutenant Green Spectrum cap.
I saw that, nice.
A replica Troy Tempest hat from Stingray. And, of course, I think it was John Tracy's cap from Thunderbirds. He managed to balance those all there, and obviously
very clever.
Chris doesn't wear a dunce cap. That's just reserved for you and I.
Oh, no, heaven forbid.
So now Chris is de-hatted. Oh, there must be a better word than that. What's the word for a hat maker?
It's a hatter. It's just a hatter, isn't it?
Is it really?
Well, like the Mad Hatter. It's a hatter.
I thought there was a better word. This is a very important
thing.
I try and... Yeah, maybe it is a milliner.
Is it a milliner?
Yeah, I think so. So I just wondered if it was now Chris is demillinated or something. Anyway, because we've got defenestrators in the English language for throwing out a window. There must be a word for taking off all the hats.
Now,
so Chris is here. Funnily enough, to randomly choose a random Gerry Anderson episode, watch it through, give you his thoughts and comments, amusing observations and other thoughts. And let's hand over to him now before I go off on another tangent. Over to you, Chris.
Take over, will you, Bill? I'm going back to do my stuff with the passengers.
Right.
Oh, hello, Colonel.
You should have warned me.
Oh, I'm sorry. I assumed you would have seen the passenger list before you took off. Me.
Oh, how are you?
Yes, and of course my friend here is Marina.
Well.
I just figured that since you haven't pressed the button on the randomizer yet, it was time to introduce you to the equipment.
I think your equipment is fabulous, but I am familiar with it.
Yes, the randomizer is the one over here, actually.
Well, looks like you're the answer to all our prayers.
Marina, will you please stop encouraging him? Colonel, that's not quite what I called you back here for.
So,
well, I was hoping you might press the button for us today. Do you think you could maybe refocus your attention on that, just for a moment?
I suppose so.
Excellent. Well, whenever you're ready.
Right. We waited a long time for this one.
Yes, I do hope it'll be something good. You know, this job can sometimes be a bit difficult.
You've done a good job. The best.
Oh, you really think so?
Yes.
Huh.
I can tell you more over dinner.
There's the printout. Right, let's see what we have today. Okay, well, we are back with The Protectors.
I don't believe it.
But an interesting episode to talk about, I feel. It's with a little help from my friends.
Oh, get out of here.
Which is not something I'm likely to get much of round here today.
You just better hope I'm never in a position to press the button on you.
So, welcome back to The Protectors on the Randomiser, and we begin in the streets of London.
Where is he? What do you want? I said, where is he?
With this interesting directing choice, this is Hannah Gordon, emerging from the underground station in Trafalgar Square, hopping on a bus, but on the journey over to wherever she's going, we know not where. A, she's being followed, and B, she's hearing little flashbacks.
You won't be in that. For God's sake! Get the boy in the car. Johnny. Stay right where you are.
She's obviously in some distress. This is some nice location filming. London looks very busy, very cold. I don't much envy... Oh, there's a Zeta 1. There was a poster for something called Zeta 1 outside a shop there. Is that a film? That sounds like a sci-fi film. Probably not a very good one. But anyway, she has now arrived at Harry Rule's flat.
Harry Rule.
That's his name, yeah.
Now, that's not going to help.
For pity's sake!
Follow the instructions in the letter and don't do anything hasty like phoning the police.
Please!
Okay, let's go.
Johnny! Johnny!
And this is uniquely the only time we see the downstairs part of Harry Rule's flat. I believe. I mean, of course, we see the downstairs bit from the outside. We see people, going in and out of it. But as an interior set, we don't often see that room. And especially we don't often see Hannah Gordon lying unconscious on the floor there. So there you go. For fans of Harry Rule's apartment who believe there was only one room, in addition to that rarely seen back entrance that he mentions a few times, there we are. There is more than one room. Hurrah. And hopefully Suki will look after Laura. Because meanwhile Harry is over at an airport meeting the Contessa and Paul.
Well, Harry, it's good to see you.
And swinging London, hello.
We're not going to have much time to swing. We got an important son.
But swinging is what we do best. Oh dear. And an interesting credit there.
The big three. It looks as if our informant was correct.
Oh dear, they were being spied on. Yeah, an interesting credit. Screenplay by Sylvia Anderson. I believe this is the only episode of any Anderson series that she gets sole writing credit for, which is interesting.
Stressed. I'm sure it was genuine.
Well, let's find out what it's all about. They never could resist a helpless female.
I'm happy.
So few of them around anymore.
Harry.
Now I'm sad. Because, of course, it's his ex-wife.
I must talk to you. It's important. Harry, we'll see you later. The usual place, 8:30. I'm sorry to burst in on you like this. I said I never would, but this will tell you why.
Here we go. Backstory time. Harry's ex-wife has been alluded to in previous episodes, as has the son that they had that she now has custody of. But someone else has now got custody of son.
When?
I came as soon as I received it.
As we heard from all those flashbacks earlier.
Yes, but I lost him. I was nearly out of my mind. What am I going to do?
We, Laura.
No, Harry. They said to contact no one. It's too important to take chances. But you've got to do as they say and come with me, with no one else involved. Please, Harry.
It's sad we saw Harry actually happy for once. For a brief moment as he arrived back in the flat, and now we're back in standard Harry Rule, I don't want to say grumpy, but serious mode. Oh, now we're seeing Harry's bedroom. I believe that did show up in a couple of other episodes. I believe there's an episode that ends with him about to take a young lady to bed, and Gus the dog is on the bed.
Can I get you some tea or some drink? No, thank you. We're just leaving. Harry, please, let's go.
I don't want to talk to Suki. Oh, poor Suki.
Just Mr. Rule?
No messages.
Oh, that was an attempt at a confused reaction from Yuzuko Nagazumi there. No one seems to want to spend any time with Suki in this series. They're always saying, no, I'm going now. Go away. Shut up. Leave me alone.
But we have to guarantee the safe custody of President Ali during his London stay.
And also, that is a subplot for this story.
Since Castro, I can think of a million reasons why his life would be in danger.
Let us continue to talk about things that we already know.
Anyway, where the devil is Harry?
I think we have been stood up.
You've been stood up in a very nice restaurant.
He left in a big hurry with a lady.
No rendezvous?
That means Harry's in trouble.
That means no swinging. So now Harry is arriving in a nice country house.
That's the right description.
And of course, Harry Rule is not the only Anderson character to have an estranged wife and son. This is, of course, harkening back to
you are expected
to the Strakers, Ed and Mary Straker in UFO, and their son Johnny. And as you may have heard in dialogue earlier, the Rule's son is also named Johnny.
Mr. Rule, sir.
Because I guess that's just what you called kids in the 70s. They have now arrived at the house of one Jeremy Brett.
It is a pleasure to meet you, Mr. Harry Rule.
There he is.
And to know that you'll be working for us. We are very, very honored.
With his two henchmen, obviously up to no good. And there's Johnny.
That is so good.
Mommy!
With his obviously dubbed voice. Oh dear. Oh, there's a sign for Harry Rule's detective agency on the outside of his house. Paul and the Contessa are keeping an eye on that from a distance.
I'm just not sure we're doing the right thing sitting here doing nothing. Maybe Harry isn't able to get in touch with us.
Oh, don't worry. Harry will find a way of getting a message through.
Harry will find a way. You really do believe in that guy, don't you?
Well, what else is...
Well, considering according to the show's backstory, you and he set up the Protectors organisation in the first place, Paul.
Did leave a message after all. I was doing my routine telephone check on the second line recording machine when I discovered it.
All right, Suki, go ahead, play it back.
Why didn't you do that earlier? Honestly, the dog's more use than you are.
The same plan as we did in the Conroy case. Outside the hotel. Message ends.
Thanks, Suki. Keep in touch.
Well, we have no idea what's going on.
So let's get started.
But unlike certain other episodes, I'm sure we'll find out along the way.
They say.
It's nice that we seem to have two different plots going here. We've got
you are risking your life in a good cause.
The Protector's assignment to protect a person we haven't actually met yet, and Jeremy Brett having kidnapped the Rule's son.
The assassination of a famous political leader is a very serious crime and is usually very rapidly dealt with.
And of course, Jeremy Brett, best known for being Mr. Sherlock Holmes, obviously. He appeared in several ITC shows, and he very often appeared in roles where he was ever so slightly browned up to be various swarthy foreign types, as he has been here, with the addition of a very snazzy moustache as well.
Here.
Thank you.
And amazingly, this is his only Anderson appearance, I think, for old Jeremy Brett. One of his Watsons did appear in Space Precinct, of course. David Burke was Vashel in Seek and Destroy.
Yes, get me our agent in Turkey and check on the flights from Ankara tonight.
We have an agent in Turkey.
Caroline, let's split.
All right, you take care here, and I'll look after President Ali.
Okay, I hope he wears it.
He'll wear it.
Where's what? Again, I'm sure we'll find out soon.
Hotel Excelsior, Gino.
Yes, ma'am.
And where is the Hotel Excelsior? Why, it's none other than Neptune House, which is the exterior of Harlington Straker Studios in UFO. Also appeared in Doppelganger.
Mr. President and No Tricks.
And various other shows and films. Of course, it is the location for the now sadly axed Holby City.
This is the Contessa di Contini. She is a member of our official party.
Here's the president they're protecting.
President, we're running out of time.
Played by Martin Benson.
I shall be going out with the Contessa. Shall I accompany you, sir?
Another actor who did...
Not necessary.
Lots of other ITC things.
Shall not need you until tomorrow morning. I am in very good hands. Shall we go, Contessa?
And again, another one who was often browned up for roles in these shows. Anyway, she's got a gun at his back. They're luring him out to the Contessa's limo. Just have a friendly word with him. They're still being followed by the car of the baddies. We went to an advert break cliffhanger there on a shot of someone. I have no clue who that was. That might possibly have been their Turkish agent. I don't know who that was. That's interesting.
Hello. Uh-huh. When? How long ago? Acem Kunstland.
Oh no, it must be one of his men.
Left his hotel with the charming Contessa. I only hope for your sake that he has returned by the time you get there. I really would hate to carry out my threat. But a bargain is a bargain.
Why must you hurt innocent people?
No one is innocent connected with Mr. Harry Rule. Isn't that right, Mr. Rule?
And this is an interesting setup, this glimpse at the history of the rules.
No sign of it.
Again, it's somewhat familiar if you know UFO and the marital problems of the Strakers. This is similar territory. I kind of wish it got more focus, because to be honest, it feels like, hey, that worked before, let's do it again, but without the time to really flesh it out.
Of up to 1 hour.
Meanwhile, Paul's at the airport.
Yes?
How did it go?
Everything's gone according to plan. What about you?
No problems. The flight's been delayed.
Maldetta, what's the new ETA?
10:45.
Jeremy Brett's keeping an eye on his watch as well.
Get some sleep, Mr. Rule.
I'll be smoking all night.
You have a long day ahead of you.
Look, I don't know what your political ambitions are, but any blood you spill on the way better not be connected with me.
That really depends on you, Mr. Rule.
Harry's being unusually, sedentary, really, for him. I know his family is at stake, but he's normally a bit more dynamic than this, a bit more action-oriented.
Good. The new rendezvous is at Shenton Lane in 30 minutes.
Except for that episode that he didn't bother to turn up for about halfway through.
All right. Ciao.
And going back to this episode being, I believe, Sylvia's sole writing contribution to the Anderson universe. Obviously, she would have co-written bits with Gerry over the years. Mostly that was like first episodes and occasional dream episodes or shrinking episodes, and of course the second series of Supercar. Beyond that, you very rarely see a woman's name on any scripts for any Anderson show. Obviously Roberta Lee. Beyond that, I struggle to think. There must be more than just Sylvia and Roberta Lee. Jane Baker, one half of the legendary Pip and Jane Baker, contributed to a Space 1999 script, but it is a shame that there weren't more female writers over the years. There absolutely should have been. But I find parts of this really interesting, just in terms of Sylvia's mindset, knowing how her relationship with Gerry was going at this point and ultimately was leading up to their divorce just a few years after.
Mr. Rule?
Well, not divorce, their separation. They weren't divorced until the 80s. I do find it quite interesting what events took place in their lives that led to this idea for a story. Anyway, the Contessa and Chino have returned to Neptune House with Monsieur President.
Good night, Mr. President.
And Jeremy Brett's man on the scene is watching his return with great interest.
Time to go, Mr. Rule.
Well, it looks like the President is now leaving Harlington Straker Studios, being escorted by the Contessa and Paul, a crowd of people there to watch him go. Several familiar extras from other Anderson shows, and, wearing dark glasses, Mr. Harry Rule fights his way forward. He's only gone and shot the President. And the Contessa's only gone and shot him.
I'm a doctor.
And again, Jeremy Brett's man on the scene has seen the whole thing. I love that the Contessa just shows her ID to a policeman and says, yes, I'm licensed to kill people, it's fine. I just shot this guy. Oh, Harry's bleeding from the lip. He's definitely dead. We put a blanket over him. I think that police car that just arrived and one of the non-uniformed officers that just got out actually was seen walking by the studio earlier as a different character. Did he have inside knowledge on what was going to happen? As the Protectors seem to have hatched some kind of plan here as they leave Shadow HQ along with an ambulance, heading for the mortuary. Oh, and that's a very narrow sides of two buildings to get an ambulance like that down. They nearly smacked the corner of the wall as they turned there. And now here we are in the mortuary, which I believe is a redress of the hospital set from Think Back, the episode that I had a lot of trouble with on the Randomiser, despite being a good one.
All right, Harry, you've had your happy ending. Now what about the rest of the story?
Yay, he's not dead.
I don't believe it. Harry, he can't be dead.
I'm afraid it is true. There is no doubt.
Oh, my God, I've lived through this moment so many times that now that it's happened, I just can't accept it.
Perhaps death is an anticlimax. Perhaps the fear of death is worse.
It certainly made Jeremy Brett's morning.
It means nothing to you, does it? You just don't care.
Care?
No, why should I care?
What is this care?
Ah.
I am Jeremy Brett. The laws of mortal men do not apply to me.
You see, where I come from, life is cheap.
There we go.
What I do care about is the living and the lives that I can save. Unfortunately, yours are not among them.
I kind of like as well this meeting of Laura Rule, someone who's obviously been aware of what her husband's work involves and has chosen to walk away from all that, meeting someone who is,
that I will be able to lead my
a regular, villain, for lack of a better word, although he doesn't consider himself a villain, from that world. It's nice that she gets to sort of see up close and personal, very personal,
Harry's life.
I am a man of peace.
What Harry actually has to deal with.
Full of violence.
Again, it's another useful sort of shorthand to see why their relationship didn't work. I wish we could have had more of that, and I kind of wish
Oh, beautiful lady.
that A, not only that we got more Jeremy Brett in the Anderson universe, but B, that Hannah Gordon returned somehow along the way in the Protectors.
I cannot take that risk. You see,
just some more. Oh, there's Paul. Just some more hint of what went on
over here
with the rules. I guess we can surmise easily enough, but hey ho. Anyway, Paul has now walked in to save Laura. He's got Jeremy Brett's henchman number 1 on the floor, taking his gun away from him, but he didn't count on.
Get over there against the wall. Now you, over here. And keep your hands where I can see them.
Henchman number 2.
I assure you I am unarmed.
There he is, and Paul's felt the gun in his back.
I think we hold the ace.
And henchman number 2 is played by Mark Zuber.
Give me your gun.
Who appeared in Space 1999 twice. He was in the episode Black Sun, and he was a security guard in Brian the Brain. I think Brian the Brain was the only one he got any dialogue in. The chips are looking very down for Paul and Laura.
Do what must be done.
No, for God's sake, no!
And Jeremy Brett is still smoking because what else are you going to do? You're Jeremy Brett. Oh, and Laura's looking very upset. Here comes Mark Zuber, henchman number 2, bleeding from the mouth. Giving Paul enough time to knock out henchman number 1, grab his gun.
It's okay, Johnny. It's okay.
Yay, Johnny is saved. Honestly, I'd forgotten that Johnny was even an issue.
It's okay.
So it's all over now, and Jeremy Brett, well...
You see, Mr. President, it was necessary to hide you away and replace you with our Turkish colleague.
Oh, that's where the Turkish colleague came into it. Yeah, Jeremy Brett's plan is foiled.
Blood capsules to achieve
I
realism.
don't know what's happened to him, but everything's fine now. The day is saved.
I am most happy that I am still sufficiently alive to be able to say thank you personally.
I am happy to be alive. That's a line.
This is wrong.
Caroline, if you take the president in your car, I'll follow behind.
All right. See you later, Harry.
So now everyone's gone. It's just Harry and Laura, and Johnny is presumably tucked up in bed, safe and sound, being looked after by And that puts a smile on Harry's face. Gus. Gus is in bed with the little boy. Gus is such a gorgeous animal. And I think I've said before, but I'm sure the only time Robert Vaughn is genuinely happy, at least appears to be genuinely happy, is when he's got a dog to talk to and play with. They do seem to have a nice rapport. There he is. Harry's tucking Johnny up in bed, and Gus is like, "Give me some attention. Please, I'll snuggle with you."
Come on, Gus.
Again, speaking of characters we needed to see more of, why is there no Day in the Limelight episode for Gus? Oh, he's a good boy. And now we'll have a little bit of angsty banter between Harry and Laura.
It's been very hard for you.
You too.
Oh.
Difference is that you're geared to it and I'm not.
Yeah, so this dialogue hints at the falling out, but because the show is so short, because we only get the one appearance of Laura, and because it was, you know, a not a subplot but a co-plot running alongside the main action,
I'm trying to forget you.
It doesn't work as well.
Changed my name. I've put 5,000 miles between us.
As the Strakers breakup did.
Still someone finds out you're my wife.
But that might be because the Straker breakup stuff was handled so exceptionally well. This looks mundane a bit by comparison.
When will you leave?
Yep, she's already at the airport. It's just, you know, accepted that she'll leave. There'll be no attempts to work things out. She's at the airport lounge all by herself, well, with Johnny, who's got his finger in his ear, and he's also got a red toy truck out of the deal, so not too bad. Their flight's been called. She keeps looking around for Harry, but of course he's not there, because she said, you know, I don't want anything to do with you. We don't need you in our lives. But she takes that one last look round just before heading out to the departure gate, and he's not there. But he was watching on the observation deck as the plane took off. Because he's not, you know, he's a sensitive soul at heart, is our Harry. And there we go. That was, with a little help from my friends, ending on a screen, ending on a freeze frame there even. And yeah, very interesting episode. Not so much for what goes on in it, but more for the fact that Sylvia wrote this just a few years before splitting up with Gerry. And I wonder if she put this out there as a sort of, you know, almost like a warning to him, saying, you know, I could walk away from you. My family takes precedence over our work together. I'd love to hear her talk about this. Sadly, I don't think she ever did. A pretty strong episode from The Protectors.
In the avenues and alleyways.
Yeah, there we are. Another live-action series for Samira Ahmed.
Yes, funny how we both forgot that.
That's right.
I know, understandably for you, but why did I go to Crossroads to Crime rather than The Protectors?
Yes, funny. Yeah.
Awkward. Anyway, who doesn't love a bit of Robert Vaughn and his big dog?
Yeah, just a bit, though. Just a bit.
Yeah? Well, because obviously, you know, I've got Eric, the dog, who is very much like Robert Vaughn's dog in the opening title, so...
That's true, yeah.
Yeah, funny how things come full circle.
Yes,
or not.
But I was more hilarity ensued, didn't it, during that, Jamie?
Did
when
it?
You were very
what are you on
disappointed to
about?
find that there was no word for removing hats.
No, there isn't. Well, other than doffing.
Doffing was the best you could come up with.
So multi-doffery, possibly, if you're... Anyway.
Like it. Yeah, okay.
That's the best I can do. Right. I mean, clearly full of tangents. I better go and spread my tangents elsewhere.
We've clearly run out of things to say.
Yeah. It was bound to happen after 158 pods.
It's true.
So here we are. This will be the final podcast of the... No, it won't be really. We're going to carry on.
You can't do that to us.
No, we'll carry on as long as we can. So that is the end of pod 159 of the Gerry Anderson Podcast.
Wow. Yeah, good.
We'll be back next week. In the meantime, please do send us your thoughts about various Anderson topics. Also, tell us your current Gerry Anderson Podcast listening habits.
Yes.
Where, when, and how are you listening?
And has it changed?
And has it changed? Now the world has changed so much. Do let us know. Really interested to find out. Podcast at gerryanderson.co.uk for all that sort of stuff. And also, tweet us and all the stuff that Richard says. And please do leave us a lovely review. We'd love a review.
Yes,
we're desperate for your reviews, please. Yeah. Fine. Right, we'll go away. Unless you've got anything else to add, Richard James?
No, not really.
Fine. All right. Well, then we'll bid you adieu. Chapeau. Isn't that what you say? Like hats off, kind of goodbye?
Okay. We're back to that, are we?
Yeah. Okay. Bye.
Hats off. Bye.
Stage 1 complete.
Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
I've got to get away from talking about hats. It's problematic, isn't it?
It is problematic, yes.
Yeah.
The trouble is, it doesn't really lead anywhere, does it?
No.
And
that's
not
like
a great
this podcast as a whole.
It's also not a great opener for a conversation, is it? Have you ever wondered why there isn't a word for the removal of hats?
Well, do you know, it's the reason that it's talking about that sort of stuff is the reason we get 5-star ratings and reviews.
Oh, I see.
Would you like me to read you 2 of our latest reviews?
Did they mention hats?
3. I don't believe so, but here we go.
Okay, go on then.
Dr. Pertwee says...
Right.
I can't believe this is still free and not on Netflix. A quality production with lots of laughs and smiles. Well done, lads. Thanks, Dr. Pertwee.
Lovely. Yeah.
Heel Wilson says... This is the best place on the internet. Makes me super happy. Richard, Jamie and Chris are brilliant hosts. It's a wealth of nostalgia, brilliant tidbits and excellent humour, 5 stars. Isn't that the rating? That's the exact review that I asked people to post.
Well, there you go. So you must be very happy.
That's embarrassing, isn't it? Anyway, final one for this week. 5 stars from The Real Marv.
Oh, yeah,
Not the fake Marv, but the real one.
No.
The Real Marv says... The best show to do with the fab worlds of Gerry Anderson. Jerry's son Jamie does a superb job of bigging up his dad's incredible Anderverse projects and letting everyone know what's going on with the news that's happening all the time. He is ably assisted by actor and author of some note, Mr. Richard
You're making
James.
this up now, surely.
No, who apparently was in Space Precinct, but he doesn't like to talk about that. Chris Dale's Randomiser wonderfully looks at random episodes and films from the Anderverse, and there are always fascinating guest interviews. Don't forget the Fab Fact section, and phew, I'm sure I probably missed something. No turn is unstoned
Great.
in this show,
good.
And that's for
Love
sure.
it.
Isn't that lovely?
Very nice. Yeah, very nice.
Thank you, folks. We really appreciate those.
Yeah, we do appreciate it, mainly because it makes us feel good, but also it really does help in terms of visibility for the podcast. And, it shows up on people's apps, so more and more people get to hear us.
Exactly.
Which can only be a good thing.
Yes. No, it's fantastic. So thank you. Yeah. And that's the reason we get out of bed in the morning, really, isn't it, Richard?
Quite right, too. Yeah.
So now we're done with this. Back to bed, separately, of course.
Yeah, why not? Yes. Oh, of course, yes.
Okay. Right. Sleep well. Good night.
Night-night.
Bye.
You have been listening to the Gerry Anderson Podcast. Wasn't it fun?
You have been listening to an Anderson Entertainment production.